You are very seasoned. You know exactly what you're speaking of. I can tell myself. When are you going to start doing your own classes?
Well, actually, I do seminars.
Right.
I do seminars. I did one at the Colony Theater. We had about a couple hundred people. I used to do them probably once every 3 months because I enjoy doing it. I talk about artistry. I talk about passion. And basically what I do, I use the art of storytelling.
Right.
And the stories are highly emotional. I do, and so I become highly emotional in front of you, but I do it to get you to understand the structure of the story.
Absolutely.
Create what is your story. And as you start telling me your story, your real story, and you start breaking down the barriers, for some reason, I'm interested.
Right.
And the emotion starts to come out. And Aristotle defined the definition of tragedy is the proper purgation of emotions that create a catharsis. So if you become emotional with me, if you break down the barriers and that human element starts coming out of you, I'm with you.
Right.
That's what I'm looking for. And people don't realize that. They think, well, I've got to go here, I've got to go to this audition. That people are running around like chickens with their heads cut off.
Right.
And I'm going, take the moment now. This second could be the most important time in your career, and you have no idea what's going on. But people are just, I got to go, I'm late, I got to be somewhere else. Why don't you just take the time and make the most of what's happening? That could be the great opportunity that you may be expecting.
Right.
But people don't know that, and it's not my job to reveal that.
That's true.
Because then if you tell people that something is important, if you tell them that it's monumental, that it could be pivoting what they do at this point, it's an overkill.
That's true.
What did I wear? Should I shave? Did I put on too much makeup? All my clothes I changed 12 different times. And then they get there and they're anything but themselves. It's not natural. Do you follow what I'm saying?
I follow exactly what you're saying.
And it's hard, especially when you're coming before a casting director. Doesn't matter whether it's the extra work or whatever, to just be yourself. It's hard for people to do that because they're thinking, but they want so much more. They want me to be so much more, and go, no, we don't. No, we don't. Just be who you are. Allow that to be enough. And when you look at your great works of art, when you see people that are struggling through things, performances that rivet you,
right?
There's a human struggle. I get emotional every time I think about this. In A Beautiful Mind, what is so magnificent about that is that he's sick and he can't help it.
Right. Yes.
He says, I'm helpless. I can't do anything about it.
Right. Yeah.
And so you're helpless in watching this, but that's what's so magnificent.
Absolutely.
But we're so afraid to do that. We're so afraid. I'm nervous. I'm scared. I don't know what I'm doing. Can you help me?
Right.
No, it's I want to impress you. This is who I am.
Right.
Basically. And no matter how much work I've done, it always slaps me down because of that human element.
Right.
You know, of just being real, being human.
Right.
And the great works of art are wanting people to be that way.
Yeah.
Because that's the role. That's what it is. But what does it take for a person to understand that?
You know, honestly, I'd say as an actor, and I'm sure I'm speaking for other people too, and I can say that because I know we all think in the same degree. When we're walking into a room, into a casting director's room, we have that anxiety. We have that fear that this person is the be-all and end-all of my career. You know, if I go in this person's room, is this person going to help me or are they going to hurt me? Can you talk a little bit about that? Can you heal our feelings inside about that?
It will take care of itself.
Right.
If you just wipe all that slate away. Stop putting all this garbage in your mind. You're putting the barbed wires around you. You're strapping yourself. Instead of creating the potential, you're creating the enormous limitations. So already the flags are up. It's like already the tension is up. It's an overkill.
That's right.
And so what you have to do, it's almost like a sponge, like a limp rag. You just have to let it go.
Right.
Just collapse with it. You know, there's an analogy that I use sometimes. It's pretty intense, but sometimes when you're going through that down and out moment, let's say you're at home and you're by yourself and all the lights are out and you just can't go on anymore. I mean, it's over. It's the end. I can't. My career, my life, I don't want to do anything anymore. And let's say you're stark naked and you're in your bedroom and you're lying on the hardwood floor and you just give up. You just collapse and you can't move or do anything anymore. And I'm telling this as an extreme. many times what happens when you just collapse and you just let go, and it's like, I can't go through this anymore. Quite often what happens when you let go and you give in, you submit to the work, so to speak, the floor opens up and you find yourself at the top.
Very true.
Now you have to think about that for a second.
I do. I am actually thinking about that right now. That's a deep analogy that you just brought.
But you have to let go. Now, how many people are willing to do that?
Right.
Every once in a while, you see that magnificent performance. Zoe Caldwell, I saw do masterclass down at the Mark Taper Forum. I have never gotten over that. I saw Phyllis Freelick do Hands of the Enemy, the deaf mute, and Johnny Rubinstein. No, I'm sorry, it was another movie. It was another play called Hands of the Enemy. Never gotten over this. She played a deaf mute. She was the writer of the play. Richard Dreyfuss played the director. And finally, she was lying in her writing. She wrote the play. All the actors walked off stage, the director, everyone walked out of the theater, just left the theater with a deaf mute person in front of 700 people in an audience. And she started crawling around on the stage. The play stopped, and she started screaming. She was in such pain because she could not tell us what she was feeling. And she just threw herself on the stage. And finally, she just reared up, and this scream just came through her voice. It was the only sound she could make. She screamed. And I jumped out of my chair, and I walked down to the stage, and I said, "It's okay." And I was not the only person that did that. There were other people going. It was that powerful. And finally, we all went back to our seats. Imagine this. It was that powerful. And then finally she typed at a typewriter, and the truth, she created the truthfulness. All right, I'm going to tell you the truth. You're not going to want to hear this, but I'm going to tell you. And finally the actors came back, as they always do. And she handed out the sides. And they started to give life to what she had created, because she had told the truth. And I'm not going to tell you what happened at the end in case you see the play. It's as if I saw it this morning. It's right there. It always has an impression with me. People make impressions with me. Sometimes it's hard to get over it. And it is painful sometimes. But you learn to work through that pain. As a dancer, the body does hurt. And when you do splits, and I remember in New York, I was dancing. It was very cold, and the body contracts no matter how much you stretch it. And on a cold day outside, you go into the studio. You're trying to warm up to get the body to work. And I was doing splits, and I could not go down. And the teacher came over with a stick. It was a ballet teacher. And I said, "Don't you dare, because it's a bad day. I'm telling you, it's a bad day I'm going through right now." And finally, he came over, and as I was struggling with this, no matter if I danced for all these years, and he said to me, "Just breathe. Just breathe." And I went, and I took a deep breath, and he said, "Take another breath." And as soon as I started to relax, what happened? I went through the pain, and I went further than I'd ever gone.
Relaxation.
Just take a breath.
Yes.
And my mother always said to me, when you get down and out and it gets tough, just put one foot in front of the other and just keep moving. It's part of the process. Not too many people talk about this. They all talk about acting. It's the process of the human being and the soul and your journey. And it happens for different people at different times. I'm talking about artistry here right now. And believe it or not, even in terms of the extras casting, this is how I do my work.